Let me speak this over your life right now. Loud enough to silence the doubt, bold enough to interrupt your worry, and clear enough to pierce through every voice that ever told you you're not enough. God is about to shock your bank account, not with a slow climb, not with predictable interest, with a shock. The kind that breaks algorithms, the kind that makes the system double-check itself, the kind that has no explanation in human logic but is stamped with the fingerprints of heaven. And no, this isn't about magic. It's not about chasing numbers for the sake of wealth. It's about a shift, sudden, divine, supernatural. A shift that doesn't arrive because you begged for it, but because you aligned for it. Because you've been planting seeds in silence, sowing faith when no one was watching. And now the roots have taken hold. Now heaven says it's time. You've cried quietly while paying the bills. You've held back dreams because your wallet laughed at your vision. You've tried to multiply crumbs while carrying a spirit full of promise. And even when doubt grew louder, you never let go of the hope that maybe, just maybe, God still sees you. He does. He never stopped. And the delay, it wasn't denial. It was designed. Because his ways aren't like ours. His currency isn't paper, plastic, or crypto. His economy runs on trust. His system flows through obedience. His vault, never empty. Heaven doesn't experience recessions. It doesn't crash. It doesn't inflate or deflate. It overflows. And when he chooses to deposit into your life, it's not to impress you. It's to reposition you. But don't mistake this message as a fantasy. This is not about pushing a button and expecting blessings to fall like rain on command. No, this is about alignment. It's about preparation. It's about the unseen obedience that heaven rewards openly. Because you gave when you barely had enough for yourself. Because you chose integrity when shortcuts were cheaper. Because you tithed, you served, you helped, you stayed faithful in famine. Now the clouds are shifting. Now the rain is coming. You're not just next in line, you're in the line heaven wrote for this moment. And when God moves, he doesn't just restore, he multiplies. He doesn't just pay off debt. He positions you to lend and never borrow again. Because you're not meant to survive. You're meant to build, to overflow, to leave legacies, not leftovers. But let me tell you something powerful. Before the increase ever touches your hands, it starts in your words. Words shape wealth. Words are seed, and too many people are speaking poverty with sacred breath, declaring lack while praying for abundance. You cannot curse your own harvest and expect fruit. Your tongue is a key. It opens the door to overflow or slams it shut. Stop saying I can't afford it. Stop saying money always runs out. Speak life. Speak increase. Speak provision, even if your bank account doesn't agree yet, especially then. Because faith doesn't wait for proof. Faith declares it finished before it begins. Faith is the voice that speaks while the world still laughs. Faith is the soil where miracles are planted. And if you want a supernatural shift in your finances, you better speak like someone who already believes it's coming. You don't need to see the funds to declare the future. You don't need to hold the check to praise for the deposit. That's not fantasy. That's alignment. That's the posture heaven listens to. Because faith never waits for comfort. It acts in obedience, even when it costs, even when it looks foolish. Remember the widow. Her oil never ran out, but only after she poured the last drop. Remember Peter. His boat overflowed, but only after he cast one more time. Remember Moses? The sea didn't part until he stretched the staff. Obedience comes first, every time. The miracle follows the motion. And maybe, just maybe, God has already placed the seed of financial transformation in your hand. But you've been holding it, afraid it's too small, afraid to release it, because what if it's all you ever get? But the truth is, miracles multiply what is released, not what is withheld. The loaves and fish didn't feed thousands while sitting in a basket. They fed the crowd when they were surrendered. You want a bank account that tells a story of supernatural favor? Then stop guarding your seed like it's your savior. God doesn't need your surplus. He needs your surrender. That idea you keep ignoring, that dream you've been afraid to chase, that generosity you've been delaying until you have more. That might be the very thing God is waiting to multiply. Because it's never been about how much you start with. It's about whether you'll trust Him enough to move with what you've got. Some of you are one act of faith away from breakthrough, one yes away from overflow, one moment of insane obedient trust away from the kind of financial shift that turns into testimony. But listen, when it happens, when the deposits arrive, when the doors open that you never knocked on, remember this: don't forget the giver. Don't make a god out of the gift. Abundance isn't a license to become arrogant. Provision isn't permission to become stingy. God is looking for those who can be trusted. And trust isn't proven in prayer. It's proven in management. So if you're asking for more, ask yourself, am I managing what I already have with excellence? Am I building or am I wasting? Am I planning or procrastinating? Am I investing or impulsively spending every increase? You can't expect God to pour into a cup full of holes. Stewardship seals the blessing. Because yes, miracles open the door, but management keeps the door open. You see, increase without order is chaos in disguise. It doesn't bless, it burdens. And God is not interested in handing you overflow if it will overflow your character. The wealth He's preparing for you isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to build others through you. It's not just currency. It's a calling. That's why He waits. That's why the breakthrough didn't come when you begged. Because He's more interested in your capacity than your comfort. He's developing discipline, building the inner structure to carry outer success. He's preparing you not just to receive but to retain. Because when He blesses, He doesn't want it to pass through your fingers like sand. He wants it to anchor your purpose like stone. And if you've been wondering why it's taking so long, maybe it's not about the blessing being delayed. Maybe it's about your structure catching up to the weight of the favor. God doesn't want you drowning in answered prayers. He wants you swimming in responsibility. Financial miracles are not about suddenly having more. They're about finally being ready for more. So prepare, organize your house, clean up your accounts, cut off the waste, clarify the vision, write the plan. Stop treating your finances like an afterthought while praying for overflow. Because heaven is not confused, it's calculated. And what you haven't managed, you're not yet ready to multiply. People often romanticize the harvest, but nobody talks about the hands that bled in the sowing. Nobody glamorizes the discipline of stewardship. But let me tell you something. The soil doesn't respond to shouting, it responds to sowing. If you want financial miracles, plant financial discipline. If you want overflow, live like someone who knows how to carry it. And once you learn to carry it, don't clutch it. Hold it with open hands. Because God never blesses just to make you comfortable. He blesses to make you a conduit. You're not just here to collect wealth. You're here to circulate it. You're here to send it where He leads. You're here to break generational lack, not repeat it. You're here to build tables, not hoard bread. You're here to be the miracle someone else prayed for. But don't think for a second that this means living without. No. God is not just a provider. He's an extravagant Father. He delights in giving good gifts to His children. He has no issue with you enjoying what He provides. But joy must never replace justice. Comfort must never silence your calling. He blesses you so you can build. He prospers you so you can lift. He shocks your bank account not to inflate your pride, but to equip your purpose. You are not just another name in the system. You are chosen, handpicked, appointed to be a lighthouse in financial darkness. You are being trained, refined, stretched, not punished but prepared. That frustration you feel, that's your faith getting stronger. That dry season, that was your roots digging deeper. You're not behind. You're being forged. And when you're ready, it's going to look like an overnight miracle. But it won't be overnight. It'll be years of hidden obedience bursting into visible glory. So let me ask you now, what if your miracle doesn't show up as money, but as wisdom? What if it's not in the deposit but in the discipline? What if God's shock to your bank account starts with shocking your mindset? Because the real shift isn't just in your funds, it's in your philosophy, your beliefs about money, your assumptions about worth. your inherited thoughts about lack. Some of you were raised in homes where money was a fight, not a flow, where you were taught that wanting more was wrong, that rich people were greedy, that struggle was holy. But what if I told you that poverty is not your portion, that playing small doesn't serve the kingdom, that shrinking your dreams doesn't honor the God who gave them? You weren't created to survive paycheck to paycheck. You weren't born to live in debt cycles. You are royalty heir to divine inheritance. Your Father owns it all. So why are you walking like an orphan? Stop agreeing with limitation. Stop normalizing lack. Stop rehearsing trauma and calling it humility. You are not what your balance says. You are not what your bank denied. You are not what your past spent. You are a chosen vessel. You are a trusted steward. You are anointed to build, to give, to change lives with your increase. So how do you start? You start by speaking differently. No more cursing your circumstances. No more calling yourself broke. No more aligning your mouth with fear. Every time you speak lack, you plant poverty in your future. But when you speak abundance, when you declare I am provided for, when you speak my God shall supply, when you say I am a lender, not a borrower, you are programming your future for overflow. Words are not filler, they are frameworks. Speak it even if it sounds crazy. Speak it when your rent is due and the balance is low. Speak it when you're down to your last 20. Speak it when nothing around you agrees. Because heaven isn't waiting for your comfort, it's responding to your faith. And once you've spoken it, live like it's already done. Budget with intention. Save with vision. Give with joy. Plan with precision. Study the markets. Learn the tools. Ask the questions. Get equipped. Because miracles without preparation become missed opportunities. Heaven may release the blessing, but it's your job to be ready to handle it. Don't be the person who prays for an open door but never builds the muscle to walk through it. Don't be the person who begs for rain but refuses to dig a well. Your expectation must be matched by your preparation. So what are you doing today that makes space for tomorrow's breakthrough? What habits are you building that can hold the weight of the miracle you've been praying for? Because the truth is, the miracle may already be in motion. It's not waiting on God, it's waiting on your readiness. There's a reason God moves suddenly, because if He told you everything in advance, you'd try to control it. You'd try to budget it before it was born. You'd try to predict it, manage it, shrink it to fit your logic. But what He's about to do isn't going to fit your spreadsheet. It won't follow the patterns you've seen before, because this isn't just provision, it's prophecy fulfilled. It's the kind of breakthrough that rearranges not just your bank balance, but your bloodline. And yes, it will feel disruptive. Yes, it will make people talk. Yes, it will put you in rooms where your name was never supposed to echo. That's the point. When God moves, it's not quiet. It's not explainable. It's not fair. It's favor. Favor will put you in positions your resume can't explain. It will approve contracts before you apply. It will cancel debts you forgot you had. It will send clients, resources, opportunities, and partnerships without your hustle, just your obedience. But hear me loud and clear. Favor is not luck. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. Favor is the result of heaven recognizing faith in action. And favor doesn't chase the passive. It finds the prepared. It locates those who are faithful with the little. Those who didn't stop tithing when things got tight. Those who didn't stop believing when rejection came. Those who stayed generous when they barely had enough for themselves. Those who didn't bow to fear when the economy shook. You see, favor is not fragile. It's aggressive. It goes ahead of you. It kicks open doors. But it looks for people who are in position. So get in position. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to play small. You were not saved to stay stuck. You were not chosen to chase comfort. This is the season to expand your vision. Dust off that business plan. Revisit the nonprofit idea. Build the pitch deck. Make the calls. Register the domain. Prepare as if the funding is already approved. Because heaven funds what faith starts. Stop waiting for all the lights to turn green. Sometimes the miracle only moves when you do. And sometimes your yes unlocks a flood you didn't even know was dammed up behind your last act of obedience. Don't confuse God's silence with His absence. Just because you haven't seen movement doesn't mean the miracle isn't in motion. Some of heaven's most powerful answers come disguised as ordinary days. A conversation, a letter, a phone call, a job you didn't apply for, a connection you didn't plan. The seed is often invisible before it erupts into evidence. That's why faith isn't about seeing, it's about standing. And if you're tired, if you feel like you've been faithful with no fruit, hear this: your harvest is catching up to your obedience. Every seed you sowed in secret is gaining weight. Every dollar given in faith has been documented. Every tear has been turned into rainwater for the fields you forgot you planted. God does not ignore sacrifice. He banks it, and when the fullness of time meets the readiness of your spirit, that's when the heavens crack open and pour out blessings you won't have room to receive. That's when the shock to your bank account becomes a shock to your spirit. That's when the zeros multiply, not to impress your peers, but to prove His promises. But don't stop there, because this isn't about being blessed. It's about being trusted. And trust doesn't end with the miracle, it starts there. When the increase comes, will you hold it or will you release it? Will you use it to elevate your image or to uplift your assignment? Will you let it rot in idle accounts, or will you send it to do God's will in places you've never stepped? Because this is how you graduate from being a recipient to being a release. This is how you shift from financial survival to supernatural stewardship. God gives seed to sowers, not hoarders. And the ones who get more are the ones who know what to do with more. That means it's time to stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a kingdom finance. You're not just meant to collect checks, you're meant to write them. Not just pay bills, but pay tuition. Not just keep the lights on, but light up cities. You are not called to be a container, you are called to be a current. So what does that require? Vision, discipline, boldness, and a heart anchored in gratitude, not greed. Because if pride corrupts you in the overflow, it proves you weren't ready for it in the drought. The quickest way to lose a blessing is to forget who gave it. So stay humble when the zeros increase. Stay generous when your name gets recognized. Stay available when your calendar fills. Stay grounded when the world applauds. Because abundance without remembrance is the beginning of spiritual bankruptcy. God will never bless you beyond the maturity you're willing to carry. And maybe you've been asking for a deposit, but heaven's been waiting on your development. Maybe God isn't holding back provision, He's holding it for you until you can hold it without it holding you. That's the test. Can you carry the weight of wealth without letting it crush your purpose? Can you multiply resources without shrinking your soul? Can you build with abundance while still bowing in reverence? If your identity rises and falls with your income, then the income is your idol. And God will not bless your bondage, He will bless your freedom. He will bless the version of you who remembers what it felt like to have nothing and swore never to waste what was given. He will bless the hands that stay open, the heart that stays soft, the spirit that stays willing. So now, what are you doing with what you already have? Don't just dream about abundance. Govern your current season like someone who expects to rule in the next. Clean the little, budget the basic. Honor the few. Because if you won't manage hundreds, why should heaven trust you with thousands? He who is faithful with little will be trusted with much. That's not just a nice saying, it's a law, a universal principle, a divine filter through which miracles flow. You want overflow? Master the measure you've been given. Don't ask for more if you're still mismanaging what you already hold. God is not waste. Heaven doesn't send seed to soil that refuses to grow. You're not being ignored, you're being evaluated. Every transaction, every tithe, every choice to trust instead of panic, every moment you said not yet to something tempting but misaligned, it's all part of the test, because you're not being punished. You're being positioned. What you call delay, heaven calls preparation. What you call struggle, God calls stretching. The pressure, the pruning, the times you felt like giving up, that was the refining fire. That was the moment your future was being shaped. Not in the public wins, but in the private war. The version of you that's ready for increase is not the one who's chasing comfort. It's the one who's learned how to worship in lack, obey in silence, and sow when no one claps. This is the real path to supernatural provision. It's not flashy. It's not trendy. But it's proven. Obedience is the currency of breakthrough. Not perfection, not hustle, not manipulation. Just obedience. The kind that moves when there's no map. The kind that gives when there's no surplus. The kind that stands when everyone else sits in doubt. Do you understand what that means? It means that your next level isn't waiting on approval from a boss or a bank. It's waiting on your yes. It's not locked behind an algorithm. It's waiting for you to break agreement with fear and finally step into the version of you that heaven already sees. The version that doesn't flinch when the bill comes. The version that knows storms don't cancel purpose. The version that builds when it's risky, gives when it's uncomfortable, and expects the miraculous like it's normal. Because in the kingdom, it is normal. Overflow is the standard, not scarcity. Generosity is the rhythm, not hoarding. Advancement is the direction, not delay. But the system you were raised in doesn't want you to believe that. It trains you to expect just enough, to pray with condition, to budget your dreams based on your paycheck instead of your purpose. It taught you to shrink to survive, to settle quietly, to accept barely getting by as some kind of virtue. But you're not here to survive, you're here to reign. You were created in the image of a limitless God, so why are you living like a beggar in a kingdom with no ceiling? Let me be clear. Lack is not holy. Scarcity is not your inheritance, and fear is not your financial advisor. You are not called to repeat the financial dysfunction you witnessed growing up. You are called to break it, to rewrite the script, to be the interruption in your family's financial story. The one who doesn't just hope for change, but becomes the change. And that change doesn't start with a raid. It starts with a revelation. You don't need more stuff to start living like someone who carries divine backing. You need new belief, a new mindset, a new agreement, because your outer world can only rise as high as your inner world is willing to grow. So ask yourself, have you been speaking from lack or from legacy? Have you been thinking like a survivor or a steward? Have you been shrinking to fit the mold? Or stretching to match your calling because you can't build with old blueprint? You can't walk into financial favor while dragging emotional chains. You can't declare overflow with a heart still anchored in scarcity. The words of your mouth reveal the condition of your heart. And your heart is the soil where heaven plants strategy. So what are you saying over your life, over your business, over your bank account? Are you cursing it with fear, or are you declaring God's truth in the face of every obstacle? You can't pray for harvest while poisoning the field with doubt. Speak life. Speak future. Speak wealth with wisdom. Speak increase with integrity. Speak multiplication with maturity. Because here's the thing, Miracles don't wait for you to be perfect. They wait for you to be positioned. And you position yourself with expectation, with faith that doesn't need to see to believe, with discipline that organizes what you haven't yet received, with clarity about what you'll do when the door opens. Because when it opens, you won't have time to prepare. You'll only have time to execute. Stop acting like your next level is years away. It could be one conversation, one connection, one yes, one open door away. But when it shows up, will you be ready? Will you know what to do with the overflow when it hits your account? Will you steward the shock, or will it scatter because you didn't have a system to hold it? That's why the wait mattered. That's why the silence was sacred. God was training you, teaching you how to lead with wisdom, how to live with purpose, how to manage miracles without misplacing your mission. This is not just about getting money. This is about becoming the kind of person who can carry what others drop, who can build what others waste, who can give what others withhold, who can expand the kingdom, not just your lifestyle. Because the truth is, God doesn't want your money. He wants your mind. He doesn't need your bank account to overflow if your thinking stays small. He wants to stretch your inner world so the outer world can rise to meet it. You think you're praying for a deposit, but heaven is trying to give you dominion. So raise your expectations, lift your language, upgrade your vision. Don't just wait for the miracle. Become the kind of person who makes miracles normal. Because once miracles become normal to you, lack becomes foreign. Not because you deny reality, but because you redefine it. You're no longer confined by numbers on a screen, or opinions from the crowd, or patterns of the past. You walk differently. You speak differently. You give differently, because you know who's backing you. And here's the secret. When you live like someone who knows their Father owns it all, you stop begging, you start building, you stop hesitating, you start declaring, you stop trying to survive the month and start preparing for the movement, because it's coming. It's already coming. Can you feel it? That pull in your spirit, that stirring that won't leave you alone. That's not random. That's not noise. That's divine tension. That's heaven saying, get ready. That's the Holy Spirit whispering, make room. You've been asking for overflow, but are you clearing space for it? Or are you still cluttered by doubt, delay, distractions, and disbelief? Miracles don't fit in messy environments. You want God to move in your finances. Then organize your habits, audit your mindset, purge your limitations. Don't wait for the flood to build the boat. It's time to move like someone who knows the shift is inevitable, because it is. The shaking you've been feeling, it's not destruction, it's construction. God is tearing down the walls of old belief systems so He can build a foundation that can hold glory. He's not just preparing a blessing for you, He's preparing you for the blessing. You think you've been waiting on a breakthrough, but maybe the breakthrough has been waiting on your obedience, your discipline, your alignment. Heaven doesn't need more time. It's just waiting for you to stop shrinking, stop doubting, stop delaying, start stewarding. What if your next level isn't something to receive, but something to rise into? What if it's already here, hovering in the atmosphere, waiting for you to believe big enough, speak bold enough, give freely enough, live expectantly enough to draw it into this moment? You've prayed, now prepare. You've believed, now budget. You've waited, now walk. You've hoped, now harvest. This is not just emotional hype. This is a divine blueprint. This is the pattern of faith. This is the rhythm of heaven. Speak, obey, steward, expect, repeat. Don't look around to see who else is doing it. This isn't about them. This is about you. This is about your name being written into a story that only God could author. A story that starts with they had nothing and ends with only God could have done that. So you want to see a supernatural deposit hit your life? Then live like a supernatural being. You are not a slave to the system. You are not a prisoner to your job title. You are not defined by your salary. your credit score, your qualifications, or your past decisions. You are a kingdom carrier, a prophetic provider, a wealth steward in the making. And the world needs you to rise, because this isn't just about your bills being paid. This is about schools being built, churches being funded, missionaries being sent, families being rescued, communities being restored, dreams being reignited, generations being transformed. The overflow isn't about your comfort, it's about your call. And if you chase comfort, you'll miss the call. But if you chase the call, comfort will follow. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. Do you hear it now? That still small voice under all the noise, it's whispering. I'm about to shock your bank account, but not to fatten your ego, to fulfill my purpose. I'm about to increase you, but not to entertain your lifestyle, to ignite your legacy. I'm about to open doors that no man can shut, but only because you were faithful when no one clapped. This is the moment where heaven meets earth. This is the moment where excuses bow to obedience. This is the moment where poverty bows to promise. This is the moment where the spiritual collides with the financial. This is the moment where preparation pays off. So get your house in order. Check your posture. Sharpen your skills. Sanctify your motives. And when the deposit hits, not if, but when. Don't sit quietly. Don't play small. Don't apologize for it. Testify. Let your miracle speak. Let your increase shout. Let your testimony echo in places you've never been. Let your obedience become someone else's inspiration. Because what God is about to release in your life isn't just for you. It's for everyone who thought God forgot them. It's for everyone who thought delay meant denial. It's for every soul on the edge of quitting. When they see what He did for you, they'll believe again. So stand tall. Walk bold. Speak life. Sow big, worship loud, give freely, prepare diligently. Because God is about to shock your bank account. And when He does, everything about how you live, love, give, build, dream, serve, and lead will shift. Not for a season, for a lifetime, for a generation, for a purpose. And that purpose starts now. You may not see it yet, but heaven is already moving. The systems are bending in your favor. The approvals are lining up. The connections are awakening. The debts are being wiped out in the spirit before the paperwork catches up in the natural. There are emails you haven't received, calls you haven't answered, checks you haven't opened, but they're coming. Not by chance, by divine choreography. Because you didn't just believe, you aligned. That's the real secret of supernatural wealth, alignment. Not ambition, not anxiety, alignment. When your spirit aligns with God's will, favor flows without friction. You stop forcing things. You stop hustling to prove. You start attracting what's assigned. You move in peace, you walk in rest. Because you know it's already yours. That kind of peace doesn't come from padded accounts. It comes from a surrendered heart. And when your heart is surrendered, your hands become open. And when your hands are open, heaven has room to deposit. You become a magnet for miracles, not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. Positioned in obedience, positioned in expectation, positioned in stewardship, positioned in humility. And when you're in position, even what the enemy meant to destroy you becomes part of your promotion. The job loss that rattled you, the foreclosure that embarrassed you, the denied loan, the bankruptcy, the overdrafts, the long nights and empty plates, they were all part of the shaking. But the shaking wasn't sent to break you. It was sent to wake you. Because sometimes God has to let the system fail so you'll finally realize He is the system. He doesn't work through logic. He works through legacy. And He doesn't need the economy to shift for your life to shift. When He speaks, all things realign. When He moves, everything that once resisted must submit. So stop saying, "If only I had more." Start saying, "What can I do with what I have?" Because multiplication is in your hand, not in your wish. The boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish didn't apologize for his little. He handed it to Jesus, and Jesus turned it into more than enough. Not because of the amount, but because of the surrender. You're sitting on seed, but seed can't feed until it's released. What are you holding that God is waiting for you to let go of? That grudge? That old mindset? That comfort zone? That money you keep clutching like it's your lifeline? Whatever you won't release becomes your limit. But whatever you give, God multiplies. And this is the miracle most people miss. Multiplication doesn't always look like a raise. Sometimes it looks like a divine strategy, a new revenue stream, a partnership you didn't plan, a solution to a problem no one else saw, a sudden insight that turns into income. God doesn't just drop money, He drops wisdom. And wisdom is wealth in seed form. If you're praying for increase, then pray for ideas, pray for insight, pray for divine downloads, and then protect them. Don't ignore the whisper that tells you to start the thing. Don't dismiss the nudge that says make the call. Don't bury your talents under fear and false humility. Your provision might not be in a paycheck. It might be in a plan. It might be in a pivot, but you'll never know until you move. And when you move, don't move scared. Move like someone who knows that heaven is watching, backing, multiplying, and defending everything you touch. Move like someone who knows that delay is not defeat, that resistance is not rejection, that waiting is not wasting. Every minute you've spent in the wilderness has been training you for the wealth. You had to learn how to survive without depending on systems so you'd trust the source when the systems start to crumble. You had to learn how to be content with little so your character could carry much. You had to learn to give when it hurt so that giving would never become about ego, but always about obedience. And now the test is becoming a testimony. The pressure is becoming power. The weight is becoming weight, because God is putting weight on your words, on your hands, on your vision, on your influence. And that weight isn't to crush you, it's to confirm you. It's heaven saying, this one I can trust. You see, wealth isn't just about what you have, it's about what you can carry. Some people are rich in numbers but bankrupt in soul. Others walk in divine overflow, not because of what they keep, but because of what they release. So what kind of person will you be? Will you hoard the blessing, or will you become a conduit for something greater? Because let's be real, you didn't come this far just to buy nicer stuff. You didn't survive that storm, fight that fear, cry those tears, rebuild from nothing, sacrifice in silence, obey without applause just to pad your pockets. You came this far to build something eternal, to leave a mark, to plant trees you'll never sit under, to break chains and pass on freedom, to be the person who didn't just chase wealth, but changed the world with it. So when the deposit hits, when the promotion surprises you, when the client signs the contract, when the investment returns tenfold, when the unexpected call changes your year, don't get lost in the celebration. Step into the assignment. Ask, Lord, what is this increase for? And then move like someone who's not just been blessed, but entrusted.